Welcome, everybody, to Art of Sadhana Dance Zoom number 2. We're in week 2, and even though we're moving up and down the chakras through Kate's 49 cards in order, each week does have a theme. I will be actually doing a bonus episode on my podcast to give us a little review of the root. So we just moved through the root series in week 1, and even though it's the liberation current and moves from root to crown, you're really rooting and grounding into the practice. So if you don't feel rooted in the practice yet, that's okay. That's what week 1 is for, working out a little bit of the kinks. And our first dance move we'll actually review a little bit in the root. It was Happy Feet. And dance move number 2 in the Sacral Chakra Orange week 2, which is our focus for the week. We're moving into the second series of Kate's paintings. It actually begins in the crown and moves us down to the root chakra. And so it's the manifestation current. So liberation is week 1, manifestations week 2. So a little bit of different energy. Our dance move for week 2 is called Stir the Pot. So they're all going to have fun, quirky names, because why not? I just make them up, really, and you can make them up too. So if you think of moves in the sacral that you want to play with, we're going to do that. So we're going to review Happy Feet. So I'm just going to step back here so you can see full form. And Happy Feet was really just grounding into the feet. So Happy Feet can just be like you're stomping grapes, right? And you're feeling the pads of your feet. You can make Happy Feet a fast feet move, right? Where you're really moving the feet. You could just step side to side, right? So we played in week 1 with really feeling into the feet and kind of noticing your feet support you. And you can take it into circles, right? Where you walk a pattern along. I think for week 1, we were walking in circles, and we're also bringing in a little fancy little jazz square, right? So little tracing the square with the feet. And one of my favorites is to do a little grapevine, right? Where you cross one foot behind the other as you step side to side, and you just start to create some rhythms with the body using the feet as your guide. And the root is the feet and the legs, right? So when you're activating your feet, you're actually activating your balance in the ankles and the pads of the feet, helps your mobility. Fran brought in some beautiful ankle rolls for us in week 1 and was warming up the ankles, which I loved because you're actually balancing on the other leg when you're doing your ankles. So if you ever need to warm up your feet and roll your ankles, you can always hold on to something if you need to. But what we do from the root is we come up into our hips. So that is our sacral chakra. And when I move the hips, I like to take the feet a little bit wider than the hips because it gives you a little bit of a wider base, and you can bring your hands to your hips, right? And just rock side to side. So you're just starting to feel, and you can almost imagine, this is probably a Conan O'Brien thing, like strings lifting up your hips, right? Little like puppeteer moment, moving around the hips. And to stir the pot, it's like a literal pot where you create a little hip circle. So you could just start with some regular hip circles here, and you might get a little crack. I got a little crack pop there in the hips. And when I teach yoga, I call this scooping out the last of the peanut butter from the jar. And it's a beautiful warm up for your hips. And especially in the morning, right, you might notice some creaks. That's totally normal in the hips, getting a little movement in. But this is actually probably one of my favorite dance moves ever. So we're moving the hips and then we circle the hips. Stir the pot is you actually stir a pot with your hips, right? So it's kind of like your tailbone is a little bit drawing a circle. And what you can do is you can make it a little bit faster, right? And I'm just going one direction. And it's okay if you feel clumsy, awkward. Sometimes your hips don't really want to move. But when you're ready, just reverse and circle the other way. So really feeling into your hips. You can take a bend in the knees and go as low as you want to. You could go really low, right? And stir super low. I find this a little bit more challenging too. So there's really, I would say, no wrong way to move your hips, unless it leads to a broken hip, right? We don't want that. But I would say a lot of people, I find, like when they're dancing, are afraid to move this area, and it's probably the most important area to move because it's your pleasure center, it's where you play. So feel free to come into a little free movement, right, where you just let your hips be your guide. And maybe you want to bring the feet in as well to bring in that root. So just kind of bringing in a gentle sway, and you could even hold your hips with your hands, right? And massage into them. You could play with the position of your feet, bringing in the feet a little closer together. And anytime you want to circle the hips around, that's where we're bringing in that stir the pot energy, right? Where it's like a literal stirring of the pot. You know, what kind of soup are we making today? What recipe are we creating in our body that we're going to nourish ourselves with? You can think of it in that way of the process, that this is, you know, all the ingredients that make up you are what are helping you guide you. And if you don't like the idea of guiding yourself, let spirit guide, right? Let just whatever movement comes through, allow it to come through. And you might surprise yourself, like, where did that even come from? You know, why am I, you know, like wanting to like slice and like do, you know, like give a little hip bump to like my imaginary spirit guide, right? So it's like the possibilities are completely endless, but I really want you to feel and to groove into those hips. So that is the goal for today. Thank you as always for playing. Loretta or Heather, do you have any questions for me? Yes, I love it. So thank you for joining me this morning. Thank you for being willing to play. And let's stir the pot, right? Let's get that fire going, get it bubbling. We're going to move into solar plexus, power center next week. So we're going to bring in some power moves. But if you have any questions for me, if you need anything, let me know. I'll be posting that bonus episode that gives us a little bit of review for the root. And the root video is going to be a little bit longer than what I would normally do for a chakra video, only because it's an intro. So it's going to explain the liberation and manifestation current. If you have any questions, let me know. And I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you soon.